Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Daily AI Show. Today is Monday, March 9th, 2026. Hard to believe, but we're here for another week, another 5 days of shows. So glad that y'all are all here to hang out with us. Today on the show, we have Andy, Beth, and I'm Brian. I think it's the three of us today based on who said they were available or not. So we're looking forward to having a really good show with you guys. And I actually have some new stuff or whatever. I want to hear you guys' new stuff too. But then I have a bigger news story that I think I'll hold for a little bit while longer. That has to do with the idea of maybe burnout. There's a study that came out, Harvard Business Review, but that's a news story in itself. But I thought maybe like after the news, if we have time, be a great discussion to talk about because it is like it's the opposite of what everybody is claiming AI will do for all of us, which is give us time back. And that seems to maybe not be the case for a lot of people. So it's an interesting conversation. So maybe we'll come to that later if we have time. But I know there was one big story for me, but I'll hold and see if that comes out from you guys. But I don't know, Andy, what was the news that caught your eye over the weekend?
Yeah, I've become interested in a progression from what we talked about last week with respect to the neural interface to a big cockroach and being able to control a cockroach for reconnaissance purposes to several different developments that are in the neuromorphic computing space. So the first one is that there's lots of coverage in the newsletters about Eon Systems building a connectome. It's a simulation of the actual neurons of a fruit fly, which is more complex than a worm, or that sort of thing. So they create a direct copy of the biological brain's wiring. So they're creating not with biology, but mimicking the biology exactly. It's as if you took a scan of your neurons in your brain and could build a model, a computing model that exactly mirrors all the connections of all those neurons. Okay, so reconstructing neuron by neuron from electron microscopy data. So in this simulation, they have sensory inputs flowing into that digital model, and then the neural activity of that neural network propagates through that full model, and then motor commands come out. So they're kind of focusing on playing with the motor neurons that are a part of that model. And out of that, the system creates a learning process that doesn't rely on any specific reinforcement learning algorithms that have been applied to that. It has the ability, when it's built as a model of a real brain, to do that without a scripted animation or anything like that. So Sandia National Laboratories took that connectome and they got speed ups and validated the model's behavior against reference simulations. So they're validating that this approach of designing a deep neural network based on a real biology works. So Eon, the company that's behind this, they're working on this and progressing. Their next attempt will be to simulate a mouse's brain, which has 70 million neurons rather than, I forget the number that's in a fly brain, but it's smaller. Okay. So then there's another company called Cortical Labs, which has just released a thing called CL1 for Cortical Labs 1. It's 200,000 living human neurons on a chip. So they put the neurons on a chip to connect them up to inputs and outputs. And those neurons that are on that chip then can receive electrical signals. They fire their, biochemical responses, and then those firing patterns get translated into real world actions by the system. So it's a computer with actual human neurons doing the computation, which is very interesting as a progression, right? So that CL1 and its API are now available to researchers. And this is biocomputation, where biological neural networks are used for real computing tasks. You can imagine that scaling up from 200,000 neurons to billions of neurons, and you have
Sure.
a real human brain basically available to use for compute. This is really mind-boggling stuff. It's about the sci-fi AI show.
Yeah, right.
And the only problems that they notice here is that the neurons die frequently. It's not a natural
Right.
environment for
Well,
them.
that was going to be my question. And maybe I don't know where you're about to go, Beth, but what constitutes a living neuron? Like, what does it need in order to sustain on a chip? And I don't know if that came up or they mentioned that or whatever. I'm like,
Yeah.
What constitutes a neuron living or dead? And it needs energy
Well,
source.
when it stops firing entirely, then I think it's dead. That's easy to detect in the circuit. But I think I'm curious about this now to kind of dig one step deeper to find out whether the chip that they're describing, which holds the 200,000 neurons, is in a vat.
Yeah, is it a salt solution or something, or like what
kind of nutrient solution?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Like, well, it's got to be something. It's biological, so there's got to be. Yeah. Anyway,
well,
it's very, very sci-fi sounding for sure.
It's referred to as wetware, which is just like.
Yes.
Sure.
Excuse me. If you've watched the show for a long time, you know this is a skeeve place for me. But there has been a company, I believe in Norway or somewhere over there, that has been doing this for a long time, and it was able to keep it alive for, I don't know, a day, a week. Last I heard it was a month. So I'm curious whether this is a story because it's moved countries and now this is happening somewhere where it's a little more controversial, or if it's a bigger mound of neurons and is able to be kept alive longer, because those are the pieces that have been advancing during this time period. And I really do think that those are continual experimental but solvable problems. And the reason that this is important is because the human brain is the most efficient power user that we have. And so if you can mimic it, yay. If you can use it, maybe also yay. But there's got to be a conversation at some point about what constitutes something that could be human, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so
it's very interesting, to say the least. It's very interesting.
And the thing that I find really interesting about the two stories, Jeff said, two routes that could lead to understanding about how bio brains learn. Absolutely. But one of the side projects for Elon, I think, and a couple other people in that realm, are the idea that you'll be able to upload your brain, right? So I'm going to be able to upload my learning and my existence into a virtual something. But now then, can it be then added to a human brain on a chip? So now it's back into a human brain that could continue living.
Right. So I think you're leading to the combination of the two news items that triggered my imagination about this.
Yeah.
And the one is using electron microscopy, mapping your individual neuronal connections, right? Which is what they're doing now with the fruit fly and with the mice brains, right? So that you know how to imitate that thing. But now let's build it out of real neurons. So now I have a replication of my brain. And maybe before I pass on, I spend some time talking to that one so that it can start to learn, exactly how I would, think or act. Now, of course, ultimately, there are different parts of our brain, right? And much of it is occupied with visual inputs, right? And processing of visuals. And also motor neurons, because we operate on a body. Would there necessarily be, if we were going to build this simile of me, would there necessarily be an embodied version of it, so that maybe the brain doesn't move around, but it has its own, facsimile of my body to move around in response to commands?
I feel like you got to get the right person that that invents this too. You got to have the right person, because I'm just thinking, and my daughter's pretty good at math. I don't think she's going to invent the next bio computer at 15, but even a couple of years from now, I suspect if she said you tried to get old dad's brain, it would be just for vindication that she was right about something. And she had access to my brain to prove that she was in fact correct and I was wrong, because I think that would matter more to her. And we'd be like, the whole world would be looking at Sophia and going, wow, what a miss. She used all this brain technology just to prove her dad wrong.
Setting aside those risks to your future brains. This is interesting because deep neural networks and artificial intelligence, as we understand them through the lens of using LLMs as this vehicle, they've gone, really wild on Earth here already. And artificial intelligence, just AI generally, not artificial general intelligence, but artificial intelligence has accomplished dramatic things, amazing things, just by creating not even an exact copy of what a human neuron network is, but rather just building a big neural network and letting it learn, or teaching it first, and then now giving it the tools through reinforcement learning, sort of self-taught systems. Just give it a lot of data and it will learn. It will know a lot of things. That's amazing. Now, it's not so far-fetched anymore in my mind that there may be, as we've been discussing here so far, another phase of artificial intelligence, which is actual replication of human brains.
I mean, look, I would imagine a lot of amazing things could happen with, connecting the equivalent of 100 mouse brains together. That in itself is probably an insane compute ability. Yeah, I don't know.
You could get a lot of cheese that way. That is
also hell. Let's just daisy chain the living beings. Siphon off the ability to power.
Imagine hybrids, right? I want Andy plus leopard.
Yeah.
Okay. Actually, I think where my mind is going with this is the brain computer interfaces that are also being experimented on, and that project is continuing. I don't remember the Neuralink. Maybe that's what it's called.
Yeah. And there are companies. Neuralink is the name of one company, and there's others.
Is the Elon company. And I know that there are names of others. But if we look at the cockroach study, right? The cockroach, it's not a study, it's a company. If we look at swarm of cockroach as the example, then could you then control could you get like an advanced agent that was a fruit fly or a cockroach or something that was able to get into places that you wanted to be able to see personally and be able to make evaluations? Because right now it's all feeding back to a computer that has a monitor, right, and all of those kinds of things, but it's not actually coming directly in. All right, cool. I'm good.
Well, that's a good start to a Monday if I ever had one. My news stories weren't nearly that interesting. Holy moly. Beth, you want to try to follow that up?
Yeah. All right. So Andre Karpathy, our buddy, has friend of the show, absolutely, has open sourced a very small repo called Auto Research, and it's agents as autonomous ML researchers. So basically, it's a 630-line script that lets AI agents run their own machine learning experience. That's what I mean by ML. Iterate, test, commit only improvements. And Toby Lutke, who is the Shopify CEO, used the loop to boost model performance by 19%. It's for tiny, tiny models. When I talked about this with AI previously, I was told that these are toy models. I was like, toy? What do you mean, like a toy research lab? Right? Like, here, Brian, you can give this to your 15-year-old daughter. Here's the toy. Go ahead and just do a little AI training. But what this is moving towards is the AI research becoming automated and the self improvement, those results being committed with just as a recursive loop. And it's designed to run on prosumer kind of gaming hardware. So RTX 4090, maybe. He wrote it for H100s because of course he did. But there have been forks that go for like the M chips for Apple, the different NVIDIA chips. And you can get further, like you need a good chip to run it, but you can also run it slower, right? Because it's recursive, and the idea is that it runs overnight when your hardware isn't working anyway. So is this yet another sign that we're moving toward Prometheus, Andy? Where there are many stories coming out about agents being able to improve themselves and recursive learning.
Yeah, interesting. I want to follow up on that by saying two things. One, I have yet to do any OpenClaw type implementation on my machine. I haven't done it yet. I'm waiting for the best version to emerge, and there's a bunch of competing possibilities out there. But in general, what we observe is that the whole app development ecosystem and engineering broadly is being in some ways supplanted by coding platforms like Claude Code, and then those systems that will run on your own machine and design and build a full deployable production application are kind of bypassing and localizing and personalizing what you can do already with platforms like Bolt and Replit and Lovable, which kind of combine these capabilities of AI coding and application design development along with a deployment platform so you can actually publish the app. Well, I saw this morning the third or fourth ad for something that's a very different approach to that whole scheme where you can build things that serve you, on the cloud. And that is this company called Glaze. Now, the product's called Glaze, I think. So you can find it at glazeapp.com.
Glaze?
Glaze. Yeah, Z-E. Glaze. Glazeapp.com. And what it does is it's a cloud-based service. It will build an app that's completely contained on your Mac system. So it's building an app for your Mac. Now, some of the things that we'll build that, we might imagine, creating as a production app that would be accessible to lots of people on the web. Of course, that's a kind of a server-based model that requires a server out there somewhere to generate the app and make accessible through the browser. This is a different model entirely, which is, okay, now use coding tools to just build something for your own machine. Mm-hmm. And that can be a very complex app, as we know. We're working on Project Bruno and so on. These are pretty sophisticated applications that have incredibly complex UIs and so on. Well, you can build the same thing just to run on your own Mac using this Glaze app. And so that's opened a different sort of facet of this thing in my mind, which is now imagine a world where everybody has an M1 chip at least, right? I've got an M4. This is the Apple ecosystem. And the same thing will happen for PCs as well eventually, right? But right now it's focused on Mac because of the sort of the unique operating system environment that presents. And now I can build an app just for my Mac machine. I don't have any intention of giving it to anyone else, but somebody I could offer that application on my Mac up as a clone. I can put it on a Git and say, here's a Mac app that you can use, but here, give me $10 for it. I built it for me, but you can sell it that way. So I think there's a different model emerging here.
Absolutely. And your personal use case, one of the things that I spent the weekend doing was playing with research data to see what you could find about like customers in terms of their pain points and what you would build for that, and comparing it to the things that I'm building for my pain points. I am the customer and I'm immediately happy with it, right? And that actually is an entirely different but also very viable model of creating something, because you don't have to do a ton of customer research. You are your customer research. You will know when it solves your problem. And at the worst, you've solved your problem, which is very good, I think, right? Like, this is amazing.
Yeah. I mean, oftentimes, so those, well, we know that we're Project Bruno, right? Like sometimes you have a problem yourself and you seek to fix it, and then you find out that it probably has potential outside of other people have that problem. It's like, then you go looking for, because you went looking for solutions and couldn't find one, it ends up opening up. And now with, all these tools that we have now, it's easier than ever to, get from zero to, is this a thing, pretty quickly, and I think that's what's really, really cool about it. Now you still have to get from, is this a thing, to something, which is, I think, the harder step these days, not the AI side of it, but nonetheless. Okay.
Well, we know that.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. We know that Claude Code was created that way, right?
Yeah. Right. Internally.
Boris was looking to do his own thing. People saw, they said, hey, friends share with friends. And then the people in the other departments were like, hey, friends share with friends, right? And then it became a thing that solved individual problems more than what it was originally conceived of. What did you bring, Brian?
Well, I'm glad you teed me up, actually, because I was going to talk about code so much, but I was going to talk about co-work because this came out this morning at 9:00 this morning. So literally a little over an hour ago, this posted in Reuters. Microsoft taps Anthropic for Copilot co-work and push for AI agents. So basically what Microsoft has done is said, hey, Anthropic's co-work is really, really cool. It only works with local files. That makes people nervous. We're connecting that to Copilot, and we're creating Copilot. It's just in beta right now, so not everybody can get it. But Copilot co-work, which at least they kept the same names and just didn't mess with stuff. You can kind of at least go, oh, those are two things together. I got it. And they don't know how much it's going to cost yet, whether it'll be wrapped into like a 365 Copilot license or it'll have different or whatever. But the goal basically is the ability to use co-work inside Microsoft 365, which, by the way, brilliant move on Microsoft's part, if you ask me. Instead of trying to build something themselves, obviously there's been a lot of people concerned about how deeply connected maybe Microsoft is to OpenAI. And obviously we've known for years about their relationship. But what you're seeing over and over again is Microsoft is not too concerned with going and playing with the other players too. And Anthropic obviously has been making big moves here. So the big deal here is that, this basically becomes something that's shareable among your team, which, if I'm being perfectly honest, that's kind of where co-work needs to be super helpful. It's great that it's on your local files, but that's not really the way companies work. And also it's sort of the opposite of the way a lot of companies work. Companies generally don't want you having stuff on your local computer because version control becomes a nightmare and stuff like that. But you can imagine if we get back to just a cloud repository, something that just has like a SharePoint type folder or whatever, where all these co-work files, skills are being housed. And as somebody stands up a new skill, a new plugin, whatever the case may be, within inside of co-work, inside a shared cloud infrastructure, and layer on top of that, unless Microsoft steps on their own feet and gets in the way of it, but layer on top of that all the power of being a one-stop shop, sort of as a Microsoft. This on the surface seems like a win-win-win to me. Like they can mess it up 1,000 ways because it's Microsoft, and I hate to say this, but I kind of expect them to just screw it up somehow and not just do exactly what it says. Either they're going to make it $150 a user a month or something absurd that people can't afford, and it's not going to meet the main users. It's only be enterprise or whatever, or they're going to further complicate how you buy this stuff, because God knows it takes 10 minutes to figure out what you're supposed to buy or not have, and what licenses and stuff. But if they get past that stuff, I am very optimistic about this. It sounds like the right move, and I'm really kind of excited. Now, I'll throw this back to you guys. Wouldn't Microsoft have government contracts, and how would that affect them if they're working with Anthropic? Now, this was announced in a thing on today. Obviously, it was being built for quite some time, and they were working. I mean, just it was announced today. It's in beta, and they're telling you about it today. Clearly, this is something that's probably been in the works, I would imagine, for 2 months or more, depending on how things go. So it's curious to me, like, obviously, I would imagine Microsoft is working with the U.S. government. How does that affect it if they're now partnering with Anthropic? And these are the things I don't know.
So I think that prohibition on work with Anthropic has to do with the programs that Microsoft is doing with the Department of War. So they can do this for business users without.
Yeah. Gotcha.
There were 2 statutes, and I'm not going to be able to remember the letters and numbers that go into either of them, but the supply chain risk could be under one of 2 statutes. One was bigger, more broad. The other was just specific with the work with the Department of Defense. But this connects to something that I saw on Friday, because there was just a little post on X that was from Microsoft saying, after consultation with our lawyers, we have determined that we can still do work with Anthropic, just not in this really narrow area. Yeah. And I was like, oh, well, that's sort of nice, because it just came out on Friday that nope, we're really designating you as a supply chain risk. And so, nope, we're not going to remove that from the designation. And then Microsoft being like, just a heads up, we can still play, and that I think is happening before they're going to announce this on Monday, right? Because that would really screw that announcement up that you've been planning for a couple months.
So I'll just wrap this up with just a couple other tidbits in here, because there actually is one line in this Reuters line that's actually also its own big deal. When it's Microsoft also said it's making Anthropic's latest Claude Sonnet models available to M365 Copilot users. The service has previously relied only on OpenAI's GPT models. That in itself is kind of a big deal. So that goes, now we're tying it back to the Friday thing you saw. So it's all making sense. But also important, this says the launch comes weeks after Anthropic introduced new tools for Claude that intensified investor concerns about the threat AI agents could pose to traditional software companies, triggering to a sell-off in the sector. Microsoft's own shares fell nearly 9% in February. I didn't realize that. That's a significant, that's a significant amount. And then the last part here, this move, then Microsoft and Anthropic deepens ties. This is what I was referring to. Investors have questions its dependence on OpenAI, which accounts for nearly 45% of Microsoft's cloud business contract backlog. So, yeah, I mean, not that we haven't seen this over the time, and that Microsoft has never really said, we're exclusive with OpenAI, but I think this obviously makes sense. And look, I haven't, the one time I really tried to get into co-work that particular day, it was like 2 weeks ago. It was just down. It was just having a rough day. It was having a Monday. So I couldn't really use it. And unfortunately, because I was going to teach in my class, and I just switched very quickly to code and used that instead and said, well, look, co-work is similar to this with some more niceties to it and stuff like that. But I love this idea. I love this idea of collaboration and using a tool like co-work. I really love it. I mean, this is what I think companies should really do, is they should hire somebody to come in who really understands this and says, okay, this girl's here, and they're going to go department by department, person by person, within reason, and they're going to collect skills. They know how to do it. They know how to write the MDs. They know how to organize it. They know how to put projects together. They know how to do all the things. And we're gonna bring this person in. They understand Claude co-work, and we're gonna have them not disrupt anything that's currently going on, because that's kind of the nice thing, right? Like, you don't have to. You're not switching from Salesforce to HubSpot or vice versa, right? Where there's going to be effect, or some other, whatever. Yeah. This is something that somebody could literally come in. I mean, you could get somebody internal too, obviously, but somebody that comes in and just literally does do that. They know how to ask good questions. They know how to uncover skills. They know how to write the MD documents, or at least work with AI to write the documents. They understand, hierarchy, permission control, all the things. And you don't have to actually, your business will just keep going. Like this person can work independent of that, to the point where they're able to start rolling out and go, hey, I think it's doing a thing now. And somebody goes, okay, show me, like the executives go, show me what it can do. You go, well, it has all the skills now of marketing. It has all the skills now of whatever. This is now what it can do for you. And you just start standing that up for the individual departments. So anyway, I thought it was a cool story. And, I think that the idea that they're even allowing sonnet models in there, but again, it sounds like they were maybe just waiting for lawyers to clear all the things, which don't blame them there. And so, yeah, it's kind of a cool story, to say the least, on there. So that was the big one that I thought was really cool.
Chad has your back. Gareth's like, absolutely. This sounds like an important service to be offering internally or bringing someone else externally, right? So.
I mean, my take would always be bring somebody in externally to do that. Internally, it's tough. Bring a contractor in. Bring somebody in who's just going to do that work, because they're not going to have the emotional ties. And you're not. Right. It's just easier. It just is. It's like, it's hard when you're part of it. The legacy and all the junk that comes with being part of a company. It often doesn't. I'm not saying it's impossible, obviously, but it oftentimes doesn't lead to somebody being able to do the work that needs to be done,
right,
with collecting skills, because they have ties, they came from somewhere, they're somebody's coworker, whatever the case may be, as opposed to somebody coming in. That's not to say you can't, like I always say, this comes with, oh boy, if you really had somebody do that, I'm sure there's companies that do this, but you really got to be careful with your top down wording.
Messaging,
because it could definitely feel like Office Space, the movie, and coming in and being like, well, Todd, what do you do? Tell me what your day is like, which immediately sounds like you're going to take and eliminate my job. So people are naturally going to be defensive of that, so it's tricky.
That's the challenge with the thing being named skills, right? Like, no, we're not trying to take your job. Yeah, we're actually just trying to make we're just trying to understand all of the skills that you use while doing your job, so we can make your job easier. And if you don't have a good relationship with the top-down messaging, that would be a hard trust, I would think, or at least you'd want more reassurance.
Or here's a factoid that's related to that. Another bit of news: Challenger data shows that tech layoffs in early 2026, so just in the past few months, have jumped 51% year over year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, that is, and a recent report that I read was that, although there hasn't been, if you look pre to post AI, in unemployment in some areas, it's not what maybe some would suspect, that AI has had this impact in that way. But there is the one place the experts feel confident is with new hires, like young people coming into it.
Yeah, and entry level positions are way down.
Yeah. And I couldn't think of the term entry level, so thank you for saving me there, Andy. But entry level positions, and not obviously all industry, but in certain places, obviously, there's less hiring going on there than there was previously, because a lot of companies obviously are trying to figure out whether that's really valuable to the company. If you bring on AI, typically what we're seeing is, no, it's actually the people with the expertise are the best with the AI, because there's a lot that the AI can't do, and then the mix could potentially be good. Which again, if we can go through the rest of the news, but that kind of goes into the other story that I wanted to talk about as well. But what else? Did you guys have any other news you guys wanted to hit for over the weekend? It wasn't a ton. I mean, it wasn't like it wasn't a banner weekend.
I want to weave off of what we were just talking about, which is in general disruption of our systems and economy by AI, and note that over the weekend there was publication of a podcast that included Liz Reed, who is Google's VP and the head of all search. Now, we've wondered whether, Google's search monopoly, like Google it, that's what we mean when we want to look for something, is being eroded by the, inclusion of AI. And for me personally, yeah, I rarely go to Google anymore. I go to Perplexity first for any kind of thing that I might have previously Googled. So now Perplexity is my answer engine. And so, yeah, I've taken my business away from Google in that respect. But Liz Reed, who's responsible for search, has a very different perspective on it and obviously better data about what's happening under the hood at Google. And so she points out several things. One is that search volume overall is still growing, right? So people are using the multimodal AI capabilities within Google search, and their search is growing. And Gemini is a separate kind of thing. And there's this, what she says is an uncertain boundary between what Gemini is and what Google search is. But she points out a couple of things that I think are kind of interesting to put into the equation. One is that multimodal AI, and Google has among the best of multimodal AI in terms of ability to interpret video and audio, that allows Google's search indexes to index audio and video at a depth not previously possible. So now when you search on Google, and she's responsible for search, the index is much larger because it can pull up something that's from inside a YouTube video or any other video that Google has access to that it can interpret and add to its index. Remember that search is all about generating the index, right? You crawl everything on the web, you index it for fast retrieval, and that's what a search engine is. Okay, so there, she says, in some spaces, the search and the AI are converging and sort of getting conflated. In other ways, they're diverging. And then she makes a very important point that we should all remember, which is agents will eventually become the primary users of the web. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means that there's an opportunity for Google to provide the agent that is going to be the service agent for search, by which we mean queries that you have as an individual. And also, that she gave an example of a subscription-aware search result, which is customized and personalized by your agent. And that is, it's going to surface content from subscriptions you have. Like, Beth, I know I envy you your subscription to Every, right? I wish I had an Every subscription so I could get access to all the tools and services that Every provides. Well, if you have that, then when you go to Google, and you just ask your Google agent on your device, whether it's an Android or Apple device, and you say, I want this. Well, it's going to know that you have a subscription that has access to those, and it's going to retrieve those things. So nice. I think she has a long-term vision that Google's in a strong position because of the expansion of their index and the ability of the Gemini platform to express agents that are personal and customized. There's a future that doesn't really wipe Google's search dominance off the map.
Yeah,
makes sense to me. I mean, when you look, just the YouTube alone is a vast resource of knowledge and stuff like that. So it's a shame, Google. If you remember years ago, it wasn't Google One. I honestly don't remember what it was. Remember there was a Microsoft. There was a Facebook competitor by Google, Google Chat, Google something. I had an account. I had it back when I had the CrossFit gym. I had an account, and it was social. It was social and sharing, and you connected with people. It was Facebook-like.
I vaguely remember. Yeah.
Yeah, and they sunsetted it because it just didn't have the grasp or whatever. But it's I don't know about a shame, that's the wrong word, but you could imagine if something like that had stuck, where Google's position would be even stronger today. And I'm sure there's also companies that I don't even know that Google owns, honestly, that are probably huge data resources too, to your point, Andy. So, and that goes all back to your story about WebMCP, right? About making it so. And Google is leading that charge to make sure that not only people, but agents, AI, can effectively see what's going on at a website, and I think that's something a lot of people will be thinking about. It's certainly something, as I'm standing up our website, it's not my top thing that I'm worried about, but one of my checklist things is to ensure that I'm using whatever the latest is on that, to ensure that, if I'm going to develop a website, that it is crawlable, for lack of a better term. I don't know what the right word is there, but that it's compatible with whatever WebMCP would be, because it's in my best interest, if I'm going to set up a website and a company or whatever, that I'm doing everything I can to make sure that agents can read and understand what's on that website. So just really interesting.
And it's interesting because it feels like everything old is new again.
Yeah.
Because SEO was dying.
Yeah.
But now GEO actually looks a lot like SEO a bunch of years ago, for a variety of reasons. And you have to do some fairly simple tweaks in the way that you present data. But I feel like we're back to the place of, there are opportunities to get found, for definitely long tail keywords, but also pretty main keywords.
It's funny you say everything old is new again, because I literally said that as a comment to somebody on LinkedIn in the last couple of days, and it's been sitting in my brain. So it's just funny that you would use that term, because I feel that way a lot.
You said, and then I want you to lead us into conversation, but you said Bob's your uncle the other day, and I was like, wow.
See, now you're just in my brain today, because let me tell you something. I don't know where I've obviously heard that term before, that saying before, that phrase before, and it got stuck in my head. Then I couldn't stop saying it. And then I went through a period in the last 2 weeks where I said it more than any time in the last decade of my life, right? It just kept coming out. And I said it to Amanda, and Amanda's like, interesting. And I was like, no, I'm in a phase. I'm in a Bob's your uncle phase right now. You have to know this. We live together. You have to know that, like, I'm working through this and I can't stop it, is what I'm trying to tell you. And that is just the thing. And it reminded me, I joked with her. She wasn't, I knew her in college, but she doesn't remember this particular story. But I had a roommate who dated a girl who's dating a girl, and he turned to me and the other roommates. There was 3 others of us at that point. This would be like sophomore or junior year. And my buddy says, hey, she's pretty religious. We're at UGA, right? That's not uncommon, right? And she's not really a fan of a lot of cursing, if we could just keep that in mind. Well, you must have told me to turn into a sailor, because I couldn't stop cursing. I would curse more in that week around her. It was the worst. And he would look at me like, I literally said the one thing. And I was like, I can't stop it. I can't stop it. Like, I'm out of control. I'm just a cursing sailor. And I apologize. But it's like the one thing you told me not to do. It's the only thing I can think of. And so I've had a Bob's your uncle issue lately. And I like the phrase, and I need to say it less, but that's funny that you bring it up, because I literally had that conversation. It was standing right here, and I was joking with her about it, saying I was having a problem that I couldn't stop doing that. Greg says cursing is good. Well, Greg, become a firefighter. That's my suggestion to you, and you can curse as much as you want. You be as filthy as you want as a firefighter, as it turns out. At least that was my experience.
Yep. And to Andy's point, I asked Perplexity what the history of Bob's your uncle was. I did not go to Google. I went to Perplexity to have that conversation.
I don't
know. It's attributed to we'll give it to you in the community, because I'm going to butcher this really badly.
It's okay.
But I will post it in the community.
Okay, so a little side tangent there, but it's so funny, Beth. You said 2 things side to side. I was like, oh my God, it's like you're sitting in the house. See, we've known each other for a long time now, so that's bound to happen, Okay, we don't have a lot of time, but let me just bring this up really quick. So March 5th, so last week, not very old, there was a Harvard Business Review. Forgive me if you guys did talk about this on the show, because I think I did. I was out one day.
I don't think so.
So it's just called When Using AI Leads to Brain Fry, is what it's about. And a new study finds that certain patterns of AI use are driving cognitive fatigue, while others can help reduce burnout. And there's a series of people. Now, they did roughly 1,500 people. They conducted a study of 1,500 full-time U.S.-based workers, 48% male, 51% female, 58% independent contributors, and versus 41% leaders. That's what they give you as the breakdown. And honestly, it's just a good conversation about what they're calling AI brain fry. Says, which we define as, quote, mental fatigue from excessive use or oversight of AI tools beyond one's cognitive capacity. So they're not saying necessarily burnout. And if we were to look at burnout, we might look at that as more traditionally, negative feelings towards work, reduced cognitive load, being tired. I can say pretty confidently that I reached burnout as a CrossFit when I owned the gym and I was still doing all the classes, and I kind of realized something's got to change. I can't teach everything and run the business. I was burnt out and I didn't enjoy it. I was in a bad mood half the time. And I was like, this is what this is. Right. So that's not what they're talking about. What I think is really interesting is they're specifically talking about this idea that we're, people managing agents, and that somehow this might free us to do the things we want to do. We like to do more, whatever that might be, whatever your role is, whatever your job is, the things you like to do more, in sales, that would be like the reps do not like putting the stuff into the CRMs or Salesforce. That's just, boring tasks, but it has to be done. They do not like doing the research. They like doing the human things of sales, like talking to people, selling, the art of selling. That's what they got into that profession for, not all the minutia, right? So, okay, great, AI can take that over. But as we ratchet up here and more people are talking about, perhaps managing 6 concurrent in parallel, Claude code sessions or something like that. Now, I'm not at that level yet, but some people are. And that's really where we think maybe work's going. And people just talking about how fatiguing that is, cognitive fatigue that is. And I would say that I've definitely felt that after like maybe a long day of working with Claude code. I've definitely had that feeling at the other day of like, man, I am exhausted, but not physically. I'm mentally exhausted. Like I did this. I strained my eyes for too long, or before I had these glasses. These are my sometimes I have them on the show, but it's my computer glasses. Cause a long time ago, the eye doctor was like, you get more headaches because I think you just strained to look at the screen. You should just wear these glasses and life will be good. And he was right. I was definitely less tired at the end of the day. It was because I was straining all the time. And so I just think that this is something that we're going to be talking about a lot. I don't really have a long discussion about today unless you guys have something to add, but it's interesting that that we're doing research about this. It's interesting that people are starting to apply a term like AI brain fry, whether that sticks, whether that becomes buzzy or not, I don't know, but it's a real thing. And I think, we're only going to get to a point where there's more and more and more parallel tasks happening at any one time. And I don't know if the problem then becomes, because I'm now in this managerial state where I'm always managing and responsible for outcomes versus if I used to be traditional coder, it was about writing the code. And now we know that like Meta gives rewards out for how much code was written by AI. They actually track the tokens and have a reward structure part of that. What that is, I don't know. I've just read about that. That actually can lead to people feeling overworked, when the whole idea was that AI could take, the goal was that maybe AI could take some of this work off your plate. But what happens when AI can just always outpace the human brain, which is kind of what people talk about. And they're like, when something can clearly overrun the human brain 100 times over, what are you supposed to do?
Yeah, I want to give a couple of personal examples around this because I've experienced brain fry, and one of the ways that brain fry happens is, I pose a new task to GenSpark, for example, and it comes back with 5 pages of really good, comprehensive coverage of everything I need to know about that. But it's like, oh my God, I've got to read all this now. And it doesn't, and I don't want to be so lame that I have to say, okay, now give me a bullet point summary of that, please, because I want to make sure that I capture everything that it does. So this is to your point, Brian, that the AI outpaces your ability to keep up with it. And you can see that in the coding context very clearly as well, when it kind of says, okay, here's the code, basically, tell me if there are, and here's a diff, tell me if there's anything you want to correct. And I was like, I'm not sure I can actually absorb that.
Yeah.
The other one is just that when you're managing Claude Code, and when I'm managing Claude Code, my longer term memory about what the context of this ongoing conversation is with Claude Code, where there are tangents, right? Okay, I'm working on this phase of this project, and we've made progress to this point. I can't exactly remember where we got branched off on this tangent, but this tangent is taking me over here to fix something that I wanted to make sure got fixed. Mm-hmm. And now I got that part of it done. And that required, all of that to that point required continuous attention. Yeah. Then I'm going to go get something to drink or eat. And I come back and I don't have time or the mental capacity to kind of refresh my memory, because my short-term memory is now dumped, and I never committed all of that to long-term. So I have to get back in context on a very complex thread that is causing me not to want to get up and go away ever. Right. So I'm trapped in the conversation with the AI, just in order to maintain my context with it.
Yes.
And I can do that. I can stay abreast of it and I can manage it. But I find myself sometimes late at night. And this is what the research is showing, is that, AI and working with agents this way as just as the marshaller or the orchestrator or the coach to the AI, that doesn't save you time. It commits you to that role on a long-term basis. And I find myself late at night going, oh man, I need to get to a stopping point here, but I can't see one emerging. And so, I spend way too much time at the terminal.
No, I think that's exactly the way I felt sometimes, is that it is very hard to determine where the end is at any given point when I'm working with Claude Code. You don't really know when the thing will be finally fixed. You know what great is going to look like. You know what you're striving for, but because I'm not writing the code, I can't really say, if I put 2 more hours into this, I'll be there. That's not what's happening. I'm working with something that's doing the work itself, and I'm managing it, but I am reliant on it to finally get to the point where it's done. And I think, Andy, I've definitely felt scenarios where, I didn't want to walk away because I was thinking, well, I don't think we're more than I probably only have about another 30 minutes of this, so I can do 30 more minutes, but then 30 minutes later, you really know where you've made progress, but you still don't really know where that finish line is. You're just running a race and you're like, there's no track. I have no idea when the finish line is going to arrive or not, which does give that sense of, wanting to hang out and wait it out. And I've definitely sat at a computer too long and then eventually gone, Claude Code, write me a good wrap up document. I'm literally telling you we're wrapping this up right now, as far as whatever. And then of course it doesn't care. It doesn't have an opinion on it. It goes, oh, okay, sure. I'll write a big prompt and I'll put a document in your file, in your folder, and it'll tell us where we left off, where we are right now, in the process. And it's like, okay, I could have done that 2 hours ago and walked away, but I thought we were there. And then the thrill of seeing that thing come to life, like that thing you've been working on, the editing, whatever, to do it is tough. And I agree with you. And I think Greg, I see. I'm going to make sure I say it right. Who said go for a walk? Who said go for a walk?
Greg did say
Greg did.
Go for
a
walk.
No, I second guessed myself because I thought might have been Gareth. But Greg said, so maybe go for a walk. And I think Greg's like, wait, hold on. Greg said it. I find it. I put it on the screen, Greg, but it's like just going so fast I can't get it. Anyway, my point to it was Greg said, so maybe go for a walk. And right now, Greg, I think you're right. I know what you're saying, by the way. Greg watches this all the time and contributes. But the fear here is the slippery slope. today I am walking away from my computer, but although I don't have these notifications on, we know that there's such thing as like the remote part of your phone. And tomorrow it'll be heads up displays on my glasses when I put my sunglasses on. And just like I had to eventually, I think a lot of people have done this, remove the notification little numbers. I'm one of those people that can't see the little numbers in the upper right corner of an app because that says like 6, 7, 10, whatever. Like there's this, it was ruining my life. And once I turn that crap off and I don't have to see the notifications on it. Now my wife can say 1,572 unread emails, does not affect her. Me, it like ruins my life, right? Like I can't deal with that. And so I had to turn those notifications off. Life got better again. But I do think there's a creep here where today it's the computer. Tomorrow, Andy, you will walk away from the computer and go, enough. And you'll get some notification without even meaning to, just before you're about to go do something else that says, hey, breakthrough, we're almost there. You should come on back to the computer. Do you want me to go ahead and hit this next update or whatever it is? Or, push, and you're like, well, I can't see it on my watch. I got to go back to the damn computer to see what the thing was because, so like, I do think there's this weird, we should be cautious because we already do this with social media. We already do this with too many just-in-time notifications or whatever, the 24-hour news cycle. Well, is there, or is 90% of it just rehashing the same shit from last hour? Well, that's the way it often feels to me, because, or ESPN or anything that has to be constantly on. There's got to be something to talk about. And so that's my fear here, is that it just creeps into that. Yeah. Well, what happened here? Well, I used to be able to take breaks. I used to be able to go out for walks and just enjoy outside. And now I feel like the agents ping me the second something needs my attention again. It draws me right back in. So I'm looking at it on lunch. I'm looking at it after hours. I'm looking at it. And these will be choices. I'm just saying it's slippery, right? You find yourself there not meaning to be there.
Okay. I want to share my experience here too, because I may be a little different than the two of you. I have an hour commute into a meeting that I go to once a week, and I ran remote control cloud code during that process. So that was continuing while I was at a red light, right? I'm going to look. Yes, I wasn't looking at it while I was driving. Thank you. Don't do the things. But I was able to, Alexa, stop. I don't know.
We can't hear.
I don't know what that was about because I did not say your wake word, but fine.
It didn't come through. It didn't come through at all. So.
Okay. Totally got me off track. No. So I could, the entire process ran while I was driving to the meeting, while I was on break from the meeting, while I was driving home from the meeting. When I got home, it had completed. And that felt like an amazing situation. But what was happening was, it wasn't like I've pinged you and now you need to make a decision immediately. It felt very much like, okay, no, we can just continue this process. But I have also worked really hard on what I am calling the colleague layer. I will teach it probably under a different thing, but where the way that I work with AI, specifically cloud code, is being compounded over time. So after working together, there's an observation file that gets written so that those kinds of pieces can be better for me, right? Yeah. Like, nope, don't give me a wall of text. Yeah. So give me, so as that learns me, I'm getting like a summary, like, here's what you need to know about what just happened. Happy to talk more about any of the pieces.
Yeah. Which is helpful. So, I mean, look, Greg's saying like, Brian, you're in control. It's all you. Yeah, I agree. But I'm also in control of all social media. I'm also in control of everything I eat. I'm in control. Doesn't mean that I'm stellar at any of the above. Like some things I do really well with. I don't have I wouldn't call that I have like a TV addiction at all. I don't that's not me, but some people do, right? Like my wife has to monitor for herself. That's her opinion, of how much she watches, because she can get sucked into TV. I can't really sit still and watch TV for more than about an hour, maybe a movie I can do 2, and then I'm out. And if there's a good series on and she's got nothing in her way, like it's just a weekend, she's chilling, she can bulk watch a season or whatever. And she's like, I hate that I can zone out like that. So she puts in parameters. So I totally get it. I think we all have our things, and some people will have a harder time than not. But when I tell you that we will absolutely have agent swarm addictions in the future, this is going to be a real thing. It's got to be. It fits all the criteria of the can't get away from it, like the dopamine hits, love when something goes through and gives you a ta-da, whatever it is. If that's what gets you going, if that's what excites you, is to see that next thing happen as you're building or whatever, then it can become an addiction. It could become something that causes fatigue, because it's like everything else that we have easy access to. So to your point, Beth, for all the cool stuff about, being able to commute and literally have something working on your behalf while you're not there, the best. But it comes with all the other stuff too. And I think we'll just hear more about this. This is a 1,500 person story, small by most standards, but it's one of probably many that are going to come out, and it's definitely something we'll have to keep talking about on the show, and hope that people can find, before it gets to a point where it's a problem or it causes burnout or other things, people can identify it first and foremost and go, this is a thing. I have a problem with this. I like it a little too much or whatever. And here's what my adjustment should be. So, if no other reason, just talking about it on the show, hopefully is good for other people too. So, all right. Let's see. Anything, Greg, Brian, you're perfect just the way you are. Thank you. Thank you, Greg. And I was looking to see if there's anything else before we go. No. Okay. Sometimes there's like last minute comments, you just want to bring in if they're on this topic or whatever. All right. Well, let's wrap it up for today. All good stuff. This is a good conversation. Love the kickoff there, Andy, with the bio computers and neurons, and that's really, really cool. We'll be back tomorrow and the rest of the week with different players along the way, as always. So make sure you keep coming back every weekday at 10 a.m. to join us. If you want to join us live in the chat during the show, you're more than welcome to do that. It's 10 a.m. Eastern. We recommend going over to YouTube to do that, so you can be with Greg and Jude and all the other people that are in our chat right now. You can say hello to them. They're a very welcoming, friendly bunch, so you can do that as well. All right. We will see you guys tomorrow. Until then.